Okay. Well, it's morning here. I know it's afternoon there. And my name is Joanne Rolle. I'm the Dean of the School of Business at Medgar Evers College. And it is indeed a pleasure for me to be here with you. We go back with Startup Africa to about 2016 when I started to share my screen. And Erastus and his team has been faithfully working with us all of that time. And I'm just going to share a little bit of our experience with Startup Africa and the work that we have done with the future of work and entrepreneurship for the underserved. It is because of Erastus. Let me go back. It's because of Erastus. Yeah, I wanted to show you his picture to the left, who was with us in our first conference. It was a social entrepreneurship conference, and it was Erastus that took us to Kenyatta University. So we had members of the faculty of Kenyatta University, but we just didn't have faculty. We also had entrepreneurs and innovators in the tech space, as well as innovators in the women's movement in entrepreneurship. In fact, we were within a 2-year period or 18-month period, we went to Nairobi and upcountry with Erastus and Startup Africa 3 times. And to the right, you see a group of the women entrepreneurs that we celebrated and have worked with. And so in the middle, you see that we didn't just work with the US, we worked with our colleagues in Chile, Kenya, Jamaica, and NGOs and community organizations. You see in the middle, we have our economic development person that has also done work in the past with Startup Africa. And at the very top of the screen, you see the young women who were also studying entrepreneurship. And it was our goal for some of our students to work with them as mentors. So we have been in this work for a while. And just this year, we put out a book with 2 Kenyan or Kenyatta University faculty members on the future of work and entrepreneurship for the underserved. It was a co-edited book where we tried to get voices in this work that are currently not in the work. And as we go through, I'll be sharing with you some of our photos from the trips that we have had through the leadership of Erastus and the Startup Africa movement. Let me just tell you, okay, so I'm going to start. Erastus gave me strict instructions to be brief. The presentation I'm sharing with you, some of it has been presented to UNDP. Some of it has been presented at Kenyatta University to their faculty. And so I'm giving you a shortened version of those presentations, and some of it has the work that we have been doing. Our challenge is worldwide income inequity, and I will talk more about that. I heard the last presentation talk about passion. Passion and persistence is what we know Startup Africa to bring to the table. They've been in this work for a long time, creating job creators. That's what I call it, job creators. There are a lot of job seekers all over the world. We don't have enough jobs, and so therefore we need to create. And I heard the last presentation, if the future doesn't exist that you want, you need to be busy about the business of creating the future that you want. We'll talk about our work, the global informal economy, global recovery, the case of community engagement, where I think you could be very beneficial in, and practical implications and conclusions, and our charge. And when I talk about I'm talking about that team that we talked about, inclusive team with multicultural, multidiscipline, in countries. So our challenge, this isn't a new challenge. Poverty isn't new. Worldwide income equity isn't new. I'm an economist by training, and we were first able to track across countries the inequity in 2018. We first saw the data. The data that you're looking at now is 2020 data. The darker the map, the more inequitable it is. And if you can notice, 10% of the national income share is up to 50 to 70%, have 50 to 70% of the income. So the darker the map, the more inequitable it is. The future of work and entrepreneurship for the underserved has been a struggle for humanity for a long time. And it's not just the developing countries. In developed countries, the US and Russia, 10% of the national income share is held by up to 50%. And that means the other 90% of us have to live on 50% of what's left over. So this is indeed a true and a difficult problem that is facing us worldwide. And so our work, and this is us in upcountry with the farmers. As leaders, we need to allow ourselves to experiment, try things out, and make adjustments. The world that we live in is that map that you saw. A map of poverty and allocation of resources inequitable. Leaders navigating the future of work will find themselves experiencing the uncomfortable stages of the creative process. In the last presentation, he told you, you need to be creative. You need to figure this out. What we have done in the past just doesn't work. They may also be surprised by what they discover is possible. So, you can surprise yourself, but not until you extend yourself. The picture here is showing an entrepreneur. He didn't start off as an entrepreneur. He was an orphan in the streets, and he learned how to market. He learned how to sell. But what's important here is he gave it back to the youth. Again, this was an introduction from Erastus. What do we know about the informal economy? This sense of urgency has only been reinforced by the pandemic. There are more people in the informal economy now than there was before. The pandemic has crushed informal activities, particularly in developing countries where large segments of the population are not covered by existing social protection schemes. What is important is that in that map you saw before, is only those who are in the formal economy. But we know that there are many more businesses and that there are many more people operating below in the informal economy. And the IMF report that came out earlier this year, and another report is due to come out soon, talks about the shadows. Informality has receded in all regions, but remains large in sub-Saharan Africa and Latin America. And I bring in Latin America because I'm going to talk about a case study where we found improvements in Latin America from some of the strategies that they took, which tried to capture and explore how to support both the informal and the formal economy. And so here we come to the part which is the lead chapter in our book, The Future of Work and Entrepreneurship for the Underserved. And the hope there is in entrepreneurship, but it's not just in one segment. Technology is driving change, that is true. But when you look at a city, and this picture is actually one of the areas in Nairobi that they took us to. When you look at a sick city, how do you heal a sick city? You can't go in with just monies and operate in one section of the city. You need to be holistic. And that's what Mario Bernardez and his team of researchers found when they started studying Argentina and Colombia. Now, let me tell you, when they first went in there, they were not armchair academic researchers. They went into the homes of the drug lords. And I'll come back to, the informal economy. And they talked to not the men, they talked to the women. And it was the women that told them, we would take less money in our community if we were able to have our husbands at home and stay alive, if we were able to have our brothers and our fathers. They said, but we don't have an alternative. We must survive. We must have a sustainable economy. Help us to prepare an alternative. So this wasn't just some government mandate coming down to tell them, you got to get off drugs, you got to stop selling drugs, and there was no alternative. This was the community coming in with a shared vision and a willingness, a passion, a desire for life that would be different. And so they created public-private partnerships. And why is that important? Because if you look at the wealth worldwide, much of the wealth is in private hands. Much of the wealth is no longer with governments. So if the government tried to do it alone, it is just not the capacity. So you need both public-private sector partnerships, but you need coordination as well. Much money has been dumped into slums and ghettos areas around the world to no avail, because one is coming from one source, is coming from this place, another source is coming from that place, and there's no coordinated plan. And then you need to develop business case for the different businesses that you need. So you don't have multiple businesses in one sector and no businesses serving another sector. So they put together what they call a city doctors framework, and I'm watching my time now. The city doctors framework said we will create entrepreneurs in housing so that they could build the housing that we need and help relocate some of the people who are living in the slums in somewhere else. And we will develop security such that people can live in the places that they were afraid to walk down. And we will make it safe so the tourism can come to our community. And so that there's not waste, we will build infrastructure. And so that you won't have some of the health disparities. I can give you a lot on the health disparities and the quality of life and how poor people seem to not survive longer because of some of the conditions they lived in. And so they started working on education and training. Now, I will tell you, colleagues, education and training is more than higher ed. Education and training included, job, learning on the job, certification, performance-oriented, apprenticeships, internships, all to develop the education and time to develop those businesses, like the AI businesses that you heard about. We need in our communities, and when I say that, I'm talking about the academicians, to develop and train our students for where they need to go, to develop those skills that they need in the future. A lot of times, by the time the politicians and the industry folks get the training, the technology has moved on. And so it's not in time. So we need to be developing just-in-time education and training for that employment and that workforce that we need. And they have clear models that worked in Latin America to help lift the community out of the poverty. But it took community engagement. They could not do it without the community. So let me give you some practical implications and conclusions. And we, in this picture, we are in one of the slum areas in Nairobi. And it is very difficult for you to develop policy if you never felt the pain of a mother who can't feed her child, or a father who can't take care of his family. To develop policies and programs without that input, without that empathy, is difficult. So you have to work with the community. We have to get out of our armchairs. We propose that unity and community and capacity building is vital to create shared prosperity. The informal economy was disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. We don't know how bad the problem is because we can't measure a lot of the folks who are under the radar. Global recovery will require a shared vision and international collaboration of everyone. This is not an Africa problem. This is not a Latin America problem, a Europe problem, This is a global problem. There is a global shortage of labor, which is an opportunity for you, every one of you in your seats. People are looking for folks in jobs that have not been trained or don't have the skills. And if you get there first, you can provide for opportunity for you and your family. We hope that further dialogue in the academy, industry, and policy on how to ensure that all included in the future growth of economies for a better normal. Going back to normal is that map I showed you. No one I know wants to go back to global poverty. And that is what we had as normal. So we want a new normal. But you heard in the message before, if we want a new normal, we have to stand up and create that new normal. It is not out there. We all have a part to do. And so this is our charge. And this is your call to action. Indeed, our communities can serve as laboratories for innovation. That's your creativity, where we can develop, test, reskilling. The skills we have now won't work in the future. Explore the creation of transition nets and reset local agendas as a precursor to resetting national policies and programs that will work for everyone, not programs that are dated by the time they come out. And you see, again, we're in front of the girls' school. Coming soon, we are working on our second book, Sustainability and the Future of Work and Entrepreneurship for the Underserved. We have a call to chapters out. If you're interested, please see Erastus, or you can send me an email. This is the book that's out on the market now, edited by myself, Dr. Casato and Dr. Cabana. They both were at Kenyatta University. And that is what I have for you. My clock says that I was just over 12 minutes, but within my 15 minutes that Erastus gave me. I know you must be tired. I will yield the floor back to the moderator, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And maybe, were you able to see the congregation while Dr. Raj was speaking?
Yeah, I saw the congregation just before with the speaker, and it was wonderful, wonderful to see so many people celebrating 10 years of bringing new entrepreneurs to market globally. I will tell you, some of my students are still working with members of the students and entrepreneurs that they met when they were in Kenya. One is operating now, his name is Rowan, but we have several that have continued to work with their peers as well as Erastus.
Thank you very much.
You can hear me. Asante sana.
Asante.
Thank you, appreciate much. Again, ladies and connection way then, but as you've had, we've been able to do so much together to the point that we are able to bring our students to Kenya for an entrepreneurship exchange program. And as a result of that exchange program, our students have been able to start businesses with people right here in Kenya. So imagine you could be in the next flight to the US. And once you're in Brooklyn, where Medgar Evers College is, you could create an opportunity for yourself. And guess where it happens? It happens right here in STartUp Africa. All right? So the challenge is up to you. If you're not following us on our social media pages, right from LinkedIn, Facebook, etc., follow us. If you have never visited our website, startupafrica.org, please visit us, send us a message there. We'll add you to a mailing list. The work of STartUp Africa is inspired by what we call the spirit of volunteerism. I know in Kenya and many parts of Africa probably, when we ask people to do something for free, it is not something that many people would willingly do. And not because